this time, I call the Chesterfield County Board of Education work session on April 28 to order. If there are no objections, we will approve the agenda by consent. Here none, we will approve the agenda. We do not have anything to cover in executive session, so we'll just begin the general meeting as normal. So first of all, we'll have our moment of silence, and then we'll follow that up with the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So now we'll turn over the meeting to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Kevin Caskey, for our budget preview.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to kind of go through the budget kind of in a work session format. I believe you all have been provided with the budget summary and kind of the breakdown of the preliminary budget, kind of how it looks right now. But I'm going to kind of go through everything, and on the PowerPoint ahead, are these, I guess those TVs aren't on there. Can we get those turned on so they can see them? For those of you who were board members last year, you'll recognize the format of this PowerPoint. A lot of the premise of it is essentially the same overarching categories. Employee support, student success, safety, and communication are still going to be the things that we're trying to hinge around. So each one of these things is going to fall into one of those categories.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, you can go ahead to the next slide, Jeff. Keep going. There we go. Okay, just kind of a brief overview where the state is right now. They had their full Senate debate last week. They finished that up, and they'll go to conference committee May 6th through the 8th. So after that conference committee ends on the 8th, they'll deliver it to the governor and await his signatures. That's just kind of the timeline there. There are still several education items that are up for debate in conference committee, so there's some things that could potentially change after the Senate finalizes everything. So we're going to be, looks like another year where we're kind of waiting to the last minute to get all of those final answers. But hopefully they get them to us sooner rather than later. Go ahead, Chad. As we discussed at the last meeting, we have these new mandated expenditures. We do have an increase to the minimum salary schedule for teachers, and that looks like a $1,500 increase right now based on the information that we currently have. We do have our annual step for all teachers, just like we have every single year. This next one is a new one since we spoke last. When I did my update at the last board meeting, the increase to health insurance costs was actually an employee increase, and that's the information that we had at that point. That it was going to be it looked at that point like a set dollar amount, $35 and some change increase on the employee premium side. But once that was at the House, the Senate got a hold of that. And now they've changed it around to a 4.6% increase on the employer side, removing the employee increase. So that's one change since the last time we talked. And then also we have that 2% increase to the state minimum bus salary schedules.
Mr.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if that passes, then the state typically will fully fund those increases, but that hasn't been confirmed yet, so I didn't include that in this presentation.
Mr. Caskey, can you pause for a second? Let's see if we can get this one
Sure.
for a better angle.
It's just flat.
try to.
Slide. You can go ahead and just click on through that. We talked about that. All right, so the first piece of that, like we talked about before, that's that $1,500 increase. That's to every single cell of the teacher salary schedule. So all the way from bachelor's up to doctorate. They are, as we discussed last time, removing that bachelor's plus 18 scale, so they're not going to be presenting that as a state minimum scale anymore. But we're still waiting on a few answers on whether they're going to continue issuing the certifications for bachelor's plus 18. You got to assume that they're going to end that certification process if they're not going to have a salary scale to correspond with it, but they haven't technically verified that yet. But that right now, that's what it looks like. Every single cell on each one of the scales will increase by $1,500. We also, yes, sir.
Yes, I have one question. Right now, we're going over the student success criteria. Are all of these mandated requirements, increased requirements?
Not necessarily all of them, no, sir. The ones that I'm talking about right here, just the ones from the previous slide, those four, which would be the state increase on the health, this teacher salary increase, the step for the teachers, and the 2% to bus drivers, as well as the elimination of that bachelor's plus 18 scale. Those are the state mandates that we're looking at right now. Everything else is local option. All right, and then like I said, that's the annual mandated step increase for teachers, and that's been the case for quite a while. And we're looking at a total additional general fund cost for both of those combined of about $1.35 million. Next slide. Then we have our pay increases for non-teachers. Both of these would be local options, not mandates. The step increase for essentially everybody else, which is the same thing that we did last year. And then we have a cost of living adjustment of 1% to all non-teacher schedules. So basically anybody who did not get the $1,500 increase as a teacher would be eligible to get that 1% cost of living adjustment, except for administration. Any administrators would not receive that cost of living adjustment. And the total cost for both of those items would add about $450,000 to the general fund budget.
So that's optional, that's not mandated, correct?
Yes, both of those are local options. Our next one that we want to talk about is for our transportation department. You all got the summary document that kind of described what the plan was for the bus monitors. This is $275,000 that would go towards putting monitors on our regular bus routes. Right now, we currently have monitors on all of our special education routes, but we want to move towards getting those on the actual regular ed routes, and that funding would go towards that. How many buses in total? It's approximately, I think it's between 80 and 90 routes right now that we would need. As far as the funding that we have here, I have to look and see exactly what the number would be as far as the monitors go. This was just the number that we could fit into this section of the budget right now. But I can talk with Dr. A and see exactly what he's thinking from a number standpoint with that cost. All right.
And I'm sure you don't know it won't be all the buses, all the routes, so will it be random or will it be assigned to a specific route all the time?
That would have to be addressed after we have actually pass it, but it wouldn't be, we'd have to come up with a process for actually selecting which buses receive monitors. Yes, sir.
And those employees, would that be people that are currently employed with the district, or will that be somebody else and then they have to be another job involved as well?
Right now, I think we're keeping all options on the table.
Is that paid by route or by hour there?
The bus drivers are actually paid by hour, so it's based on tack time, and the monitors are paid based on the same tack time for the specific route of the bus that they're riding. All right. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering whether we have
You know, they come in and maybe $20 an hour. I don't know what, I think our pay now range from $14.50 up to $21.
It's approximately that. So,
All right, so I'm just wondering if we get, because we're running on a shortage of bus driver. The other thing is we're doing double routes, and some kids are getting home by 5, 6 o'clock. You know, especially down around Society Hill. So my concern is whether we could have a person that will actually work in the morning, do a delivery in the afternoon, and not with the school system, and we just pay them a straight salary. I know some districts are doing that. It's larger districts. I won't say that they're our size. I just wonder have we explored that.
yes, sir. So we do have a small handful of bus drivers that do only drive during the day. The reason why we have a lower number is because we lack.
Talk in your mic a little.
I'm sorry. The reason why we have a lower number is because we lack the midday routes to span, to allow them to have something to do during the middle of the day. And when we have just a few hours in the morning, a few hours in the afternoon, then we're not allowed, we don't have enough hours in the day there in that particular employee's workload to justify getting benefits and things like that. So that's the reason why we have a very low number. I know we had a few more several years ago, but those numbers are dwindling, those that are just driving buses.
I was thinking of no benefits. We just pay them.
Yes, sir.
Straight, if they work 5 hours, we pay them for 5 hours. And that's
There
it.
would be no, I don't think there would be any objection on our end if those employees wanted to do that. If we had employees that wanted to just drive buses and would be willing to forego the benefits there.
I'm not talking about employees. I'm talking about hires from,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
I mean,
from the outside.
new outside employees.
Right.
New hires that would do that, to fill those bus vacancies. We're having trouble finding those people.
Okay. Now, the bus and monitor bus system 275, is that coming from the general fund?
Yes, sir.
Now, why can't it come from the capital fund or the penny sales tax being it's a safety reason?
The capital and the penny sales tax are both strictly related to capital improvements or repairs and maintenance. Have to be like for physical capital items. And since that would be funding a salary, it wouldn't be allowed.
So it wouldn't be being a safety issue like we voted on the penny sales tax.
Yes, right. You can,
Yes,
the
you
penny
just got
sales tax,
safety.
you could go towards safety items, safety upgrades for facilities and physical capital items like that, fixed assets, but you couldn't pay for anything that's not a physical asset.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Next, we have $25,000 additional to the fine arts budget, and that would go towards things like travel for events, for the arts programs, for equipment upgrades, and new instruments and supplies for arts classes.
When we get in our requests from our bands and our individual schools, this $25,000 represent what to our request? I'm sure that the request is way up there. I'm just.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, it would not. The requests are always going to come in at a much higher rate than what we're able to fund, but we want to do something in that area. Yes, sir. We feel like we should do something there, and this is what we feel like that we can afford to do this year.
Do you know, it says an additional 25, somewhere back in there, is there a line for what they're already receiving?
It's not just one line, so that'd be a hard question to answer. I can kind of get an idea of what the supply budgets and things like that go towards it right now. It's spread out over a variety of accounts, whether you're talking about just your regular general fund curriculum allocation for the arts versus your GT stuff during the summer. All of this would be added to the general fund to kind of support all of those things at one time.
I would say as a whole, the reason I'm asking 25,000 doesn't seem like a lot when you start talking about the
It's not
arts
when-
district-wide, I guess.
It's not when you talk about funding salaries and things of that nature, because I mean that's 90% of our general fund budget is salaries and fringe. But when you talk about $25,000 and relate it to things like supplies, travel, things like that $25,000 can go further than you would think.
And that's distributed between the 16 schools, K through 12?
Yes, I believe so. Next, we have an additional school psychologist. Right now, we currently have 5 school psychologists on staff, and they're very, very overworked, and we're worried about employee retention in that area. So we think that adding another school psychologist would alleviate some of that workload on them and probably serve our students a lot better as well in the meantime. Keep going.
Do we have school social workers in all of the high school? School social workers?
School social workers, I am not 100% sure on that.
We have social workers.
No, we do not. Click through one more time, check. Click it one more time. All right, next up, we can talk about that one's fine. The 3 behavioral specialists. I know that's in the summary document that you all received. And what those employees would, their main job would be to provide training to our existing staff in our elementary schools. You all are not unaware of the issue as far as behavioral changes in kids over the last however many years, and what we want to make sure is that our employees have the tools in their tool belt to be able to combat some of those behaviors. And right now we think that if we can hire these 3 behavioral specialists and have them focus on that training, and also helping out with some of the behaviors as well as they can, but the main purpose of those would be to provide training to our existing employees to help manage some of those behaviors.
Do we, since it's kind of open forum here, do we still have a contract with, an agreement with Tri-County Mental Health? Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure. I can check. I can check back and follow up. Okay. Well, I'll confirm that. I'll get that answer back to you.
I mean, at one time, I thought we had them in the school, that whenever kids have behavior problem, that they could, go to them and get assistance, even though they were, if they went to see them anyway, the kids would give them a hard time, but, I'm pretty sure we had that set up, and I was just, when I saw these behavior specialists, I was wondering, what were they gonna really, to Tri-County Mental Health?
Yes, sir. I'll check back in and get that answer for you.
Question to back up to that psychiatrist was, does Medicaid possibly fund any of that? Is there any help from avenues such as that could fund?
Right now, I don't believe that there is. I'm not saying that would be an unallowable expenditure for Medicaid, but I believe the Medicaid funding that we're currently receiving is completely expended at the moment, and we wouldn't be able to add anything else there. So it would be an additional to the general fund. All right, the next one, we already discussed this. This is the 4.6% increase to the employer health costs, and that estimates to about $475,000 additional dollars for the general fund. This is just a summary of kind of what we talked. Well, this is not what we talked about so far. This is the revenue side of it. You can see up at the top, that's what we had our projected revenue last year at $74,668. This year we're looking at this is still based on the House projections. That's a typo as far as the Senate projections go there. That's on House numbers. $1.536 million additional for the state lump sum for Proviso 1.3. Then we have a increase to our Tier 3 hold harmless revenue. That's based on our Act 388 that says we're not allowed to collect taxes on 4% owner-occupied property. That's the state making us whole there. The increase to that revenue is $462,000. And then we have an increase in our county tax projections based on the reassessment year of $750,000. And then right below that, you'll see the projected mill increase for if we get 3 mills, that would increase our revenue by $294,000 approximately each year. So to bring that total to $77,711,295 for our projections for our revenue for this year. Any questions on the revenue?
Our operational mill is still hanging around 90 or 95,000, huh?
Yes, sir. That one is projected at 98.
And that number, your increase on the county tax projection, is that just a shot in the dark, or you have something concrete kind of,
That's based on the reassessment numbers that I've got from the county so far.
okay.
Now, their proposed they're looking at a increase. Is that calculated in what you're looking at now?
Oh, an increased height. I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Yes.
So you want the county projecting a millage increase on the county side?
Correct.
So that wouldn't calculate into what that value is. So theirs going to be separate from ours.
Okay.
Any other questions on the revenue side? All right.
Now that's okay, I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. And then this is the summary of everything that we've kind of talked about so far. Starting at the top, that's what our approved budget for expenditures last year was, and everything below that will be additions to that number. And like I said, I won't go through all of them. We've already talked about each one of those lines. And then at that bottom, you'll see the new projected number of $79,377,776. All right, go to the next slide, and you can kind of see how that plays into the total as far as general fund balance. So when we have our projected revenue and then our projected expenditure budget, you'll see that we need an additional $1.666 million in order to balance this year's budget. That's fairly comparable to what we did last year. I believe last year's number was right there at 1.689 last year is what we approved to balance last year's budget. Go ahead to the next slide. This is just kind of, you can see how the fund balance changes. That $12,906,000 number at the top is what our general fund balance was in total at our last audit that we just got this past year. That's as of June 30th, 2024. If you add in our assignments and our fund balance usage that we approved last year, the projected general fund balance as of June of this coming year, here in a couple of months, will be $10,319,000. And then if we have to apply that 1.66 from the previous slide to next year's budget, then we say the projected general fund balance at June 30th of next year at the end of the following school year would be $8.6 million. Any questions on that?
What's in the other year prior general fund assignments? What is that?
Most of that is audit adjustments at the end of the year. At June 30th, we'll have things like assigned for accounts payable that are outstanding at the end of the year, for retainage, for anything that's just outstanding that hasn't been paid at the end of the year gets bundled up into that number. So that's just general fund that's technically spent but hasn't been paid out yet.
I'm admittedly not a numbers guy, but I can look at these numbers, and this is not a good look. I don't think. I mean, I can't see where we continue to tap into. Does that give us 5 more years and we're out of money? I mean, I don't know. I guess just talking out loud there.
Well, we lose money every year if we don't raise the mill. And that's a hard pill for a lot of folks to swallow. But every time we do not raise mill, if we just raise one, it keeps coming every year. And so, we basically got a fund balance because we actually didn't fill a lot of position lists the last couple of years, and that's increased our fund balance. But what, the question that we have to ask is, what does it do to our children in the program that we're trying to provide in the school system? So somewhere along the line, I agree with you. It's as long as we take it from the fund balance, 3 or 4 years, and then we're gonna run close to our rating in terms of having. Most of the auditors come in, they recommend 8 to 10% we should have, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we're gonna mess up our bond rating too. So we got a lot of things to consider there. It's not a popular thing, but we sit on a board and sometimes we have to make those tough decisions.
Was the last millage increase was 2019?
2019. Yes, sir.
And prior to that, it was.
I believe 2 years prior to that, if I'm not mistaken. Don't hold me to that.
This is not a time of the year to be talking about no millage. We just passed a penny sales tax, and we got that passed by flying colors. This is just not another year to talk about no millage. and throw it into people's face. And that's my opinion. Everybody's got one, and I'm not for no millage increase this year or even talk about one.
I respect your opinion.
That's right, I
But
appreciate
you
it.
cannot say that it's not a time to talk about
It
millage.
sure ain't.
It may not be a time for you, but if we can bring it up and talk about it.
You can talk about
Yeah,
all you want to.
Yeah, I know that, but I respect your opinion and I respect, your position. But don't tell me that I can't talk about it.
I don't
So,
think
I
we
mean,
need
I
even,
can- we can have a discussion about it.
yeah,
That's all we're saying.
millage not be even,
I understand.
of it this year.
Nobody worked as hard as, I did in terms of working on
Well, I
that.
appreciate
penny
your
sales-
help.
that penny
I've been
sales
there.
tax. You know, I
Appreciate
made
your help.
probably 25 business, but don't say we just can't talk about it.
I'm glad they
We
voted
can
for it
have a
because of you.
discussion. Huh?
I'm glad it passed because of you.
No, it's not. I'm not saying it pays because of me. I'm just simply saying that we can discuss this, even though we may not agree.
That's true.
Okay. That's a hard statement that you made.
Any other questions on the fund balance change? That's all I have. Like I said, we kind of went through each one of the line items. You all have the summary sheet that you had beforehand that kind of describes everything in detail. Do we have any other questions about anything that we've talked about so far?
Yeah, I got one. These ESSER specialists, these ESSER positions,
Yes, sir.
explain the situation there. It looks like we're having to absorb $950,000 worth of ESSER positions.
Yes, sir.
Explain, make that clear, please.
Okay, so, for those that were on the board last year, you'll remember that, it was voted that we should use our existing vacancies to absorb that what was at that point $1.1 million worth of vacancies, worth of positions that had been previously funded with the ESSER grant. Because the ESSER grant is gone and it is no more and there's no more money to fund those, but we wanted to retain those positions. We voted to allow those positions to stay on. They remained employed for this year. We did not include them in the general fund budget, knowing that we had enough vacancies outstanding that they would be paid for with the savings that we saw from those vacancies. And now, but because of that, we're going to do that we're gonna have to make this decision every year to renew that same decision for next year, because they're not currently included in the general fund.
Second part of that question.
Yes, sir.
Are we required to keep these people just because they were hired with ESSER money?
No.
Okay.
Are any of these certified teachers in place today?
Certified teachers, no.
What positions do they perform?
We have several IT professionals. We have interventionists, coaches, and ML teachers.
Could we request, maybe Dr. Hale, Dr. Hazard, that we get a list sent of who these, however many, 15 position, 12, or whatever it is? Can we have that email,
Yes.
please? Thank you.
It looks like we're just, the money that was given during COVID, it looks like there's $950,000 there that we could, if we want to try to balance the budget, do we really, I mean, I understand the issue with the Chromebooks and all that, but, you know, where they work on the Chromebooks and so forth, but could we cut that back some, you know, just try to balance the budget?
Well, just keep in mind that $950,000 that it says right there is currently not included in these numbers.
Right. So that's an extra,
Yes, sir.
that's an extra $950,000 we're going to eat.
Yes.
And that when you're saying not included, that 950 comes off of that bottom number of general fund again? Okay, so that takes it
Even less?
7.5 million down. And then that's not included in that fund balance change?
Right, I got you.
So that would take our fund balance at the end of next year potentially to 7.5 million.
Right.
Which, back to Mr. Sweeney's point, is that gets us in trouble because we're getting down to the 8 to 10% threshold for what we need in a fund balance.
I'm with you, man.
What's that now?
Any other questions?
Mr. Caskey, what is a millage per individual? I know we've got it, what it is. What would it cost, one meal cost one stakeholder, roughly?
Just an individual citizen?
Yes.
That's a hard question to answer because it directly depends on the property that that individual would own. So if you are an individual that owns no property but the house that you live in the Chesterfield County,
Talk in your mic.
sorry, I gotta lean up on this thing. If you're an individual that owns nothing but the house that you live in, you don't own a car, a boat, nothing else that you pay property tax on, then you would pay $0 in operational millage to the school district. So the main asset that most citizens in Chesterfield County and every county are going to own is the home that they live in. But anything because of Act 388, the 4% owner-occupied property category is exempt from school district operational millage. So to answer your question, it depends on what you own as to how much it would increase your taxes. Obviously, the more property you own, and if you own additional homes within the county that aren't the one that you live in, then you would pay a higher percentage of that millage increase.
I do have one other question, and it goes back to things like fee in lieu of or other revenue incomes that come in from, say, property or real estate. Does that go in directly to the fund balance, or is it restricted to different accounts?
Now, all of that, fee in lieu is kept a little bit separate. It still goes into general fund when we receive it, but fee in lieu is kept out of the calculation for what we call our ad valorem revenue that is collected on, any of your personal property, business personal property, your home, real estate, those things. All of that is considered in our ad valorem general fund revenue. So we get those payments, those tax payments from the county every month, and it goes directly into the general fund.
And I guess I'm thinking the increase in growth, certainly in the symphony, what are some of the possible gains that we can have in our fund balance? Because I agree with Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Sims. If we keep the direction we're going, it's going to put us in bad shape. And I agree with Mr. Teal to some extent. Maybe we just got the bond record in the past. Right. It is a good time to talk about what options do we have to keep from being ourselves in a deep hole.
And I'll bring up what you mentioned about the growth. If you remember from my revenue spreadsheet, we had our reassessment, and part of that is the increase, that $750,000 increase in our county tax revenue. That's directly related to the reassessment that we had this year, and that recognizes some of that growth and some of that income that we're going to receive. But it's just that it's only going to be about $750,000 based on current projections right now, because a lot of that revenue, like I said before, is people moving in and they're buying a house that they're living in, so we don't get operational millage on that.
On that 24-25 budget, at 1.689 mil, can you give us a breakdown of that? Of everything, itemize everything of there? Why are we in the red there so much?
In what way? I'm not sure.
I just want it all broke down. You can give it to us later.
The 1.89 was
1.6.
that we did last year for the budget.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand what you're asking. I can give whatever it is, but I just want to make sure I understand. So itemize how, as far as what we spent it on.
Wherever of it went.
So it'll be so again, that's a projection from last year. So let's say that we had that 1.6 is what we assigned based on our budget, and the budget is just that, it's a projection.
Right.
And at the end of the year, we'll be able, when it comes June 30th, and we go through our audit, and we'll be able to see exactly how much money, revenue or expenditure over revenue that we actually experienced, and see how accurate that 1.6 was. If it's exactly accurate, then we can say, okay, then we hit the nail on the head and we reduced our general fund by 1.6, and then that estimated general fund balance of 10 million that you see up there will be an accurate number. Now, if that's a little bit more, a little bit less, then that'll adjust there, but that's the best estimate that we had at that point. But
What was
as far-
added back in last year for teachers?
Sorry?
What was added back in last year for teachers?
Added
The
back
shortage
in.
went to the general fund.
So it doesn't really ever get added back in or taken out. It's a matter of having those vacancies outstanding and not taking out or putting back in, but just not spending the money that was originally
Right.
budgeted. So I think does that answer your question?
Yeah, what was added back in last year to the general fund from there?
Oh, you saying if we had those vacancies, how much would those
Vacancies, you got it
vacancies cost?
back.
So
What-
that, I can
what
look
was
and
the
see, I
figure?
can try to get that number for you.
Thank you.
It's a hard number to calculate just because it's a very fluctuating number, because you have people being hired and terminated all the time, all throughout the year, not just at the beginning when that number is set. So it's a hard number to know exactly. It's just, that's why we use that vacancy projection to determine, okay, here's approximately what we think will be saved based on this number, but I can try to get that number for you and have a more hard value for you next time.
Okay, thank you.
I want to follow up with Eric's question earlier. In the past, you all have brought in an example saying that if you own a house, it's $100,000. Rental property or whatever the case might be, your cost with 1 meal is going to cost this.
Yes, sir.
We moved away from that,
Moved away from it. How?
from those examples that you normally bring in.
I don't have them right here in front of me, but
But you can develop
I
those.
can talk to Dr. Anderson, see if he wants to do something like that for the next presentation.
That'll be a bit helpful for me.
Okay. Any other questions? That's all I have.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Cassidy.
Thank y'all.
Only other thing, we have, on your calendars, May the 12th, we have our regularly scheduled board meeting. We'll, executive session at 5, and then we'll have, just open session at 5:30. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Second?